Premed office hours. It is July 23rd, 2025, and we are here, Dr. Scott Wright and myself, to answer your questions. Carlos Tapia will be joining us here in a minute. My name is Dr. Ryan Gray, founder of Medical School Headquarters, author of the Premed Playbook series. If you haven't read those, what are you waiting for? We also have the Reverend Dr. James Scott Wright, former director of admissions at UT Southwestern, retired executive director at TMDSAS.
Hello.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm anxious to see what kind of questions we get today and have fun with some students and give them some great answers. And
yeah, we can give them questions back.
I guess we could. Yeah, we do. Yeah, sometimes we do.
Like, that's not clear. Give us some more information, because
right.
I'm not really sure what's going on here. Jeffrey has a question about clinical experience that always comes up. Is what is clinical exactly? Would getting informed consent from meningioma patients at a neuroclinic for a quality of life study count as clinical experience? I would say no. That's admin related. You're just getting some informed consent, going through some paperwork. I'd probably say no there. Does working as a research EEG tech qualify as clinical? I mean, if you're the one doing the EEGs and talking to patients and putting the leads on and running them through the tests, then yeah, I would consider that clinical.
Yep.
You're doing the EEGs for research purposes, but ultimately you're doing a test there. So
yeah,
that is it. All right. We have Carlos Tapia joining us. As I told them you were coming, and here you are. I'm not a liar. Thanks for not turning me into a liar. Carlos, former director of student affairs at Icahn School of Medicine, former director of admissions at TCU. How you doing, Carlos?
Hello. How are you? I'm good.
Yeah, we're awesome. All right. We're answering questions. They're coming fast and furious. After high school, I sent my AP Calculus AB score, in which I got a 5. I'm retaking it my first semester freshman year. Would medical schools look down on it if they see it was a retake? No. We actually, I personally, I don't know about you all, you, Scott and Carlos. I recommend students just kind of ignore their AP classes and go retake all of the prereqs anyway, because not every med school accepts it.
Especially the science ones. English I feel less, or calculus even, but but the science ones especially,
Yep, definitely. This person, Sifala, I just got an interview at UT Southwestern.
Way to go! That's awesome.
Congrats. Speaking of interviews, Michael J says, any tips for interviewing? Well, Michael, we have a workshop coming up Thursday. If you go to premedevents.com, I'm going to type it in the links here. Go sign up for that workshop. That is on Thursday tomorrow. It is at 5 p.m. Eastern. So come to our workshop. Thanks, Siri, for telling me the time.
I don't know why that did
that. Awesome. What's Scott? I'll go Scott and then Carlos. What's your number one tip for the interview?
Confidence. Be confident. I think students often worry about being coming across as arrogant or overly confident or cocky. And I think that happens so seldomly, and that I think more so students get caught where they go in so intimidated and they go in so nervous that they just don't have a level of confidence that I think comes across as sort of a baseline. So I would say, be confident about yourself and your preparation and who you are, and that they chose you to be there.
Okay.
And approach it that way.
Love it. Carlos?
I think it's be you. I think sometimes pre-health students go into the interview thinking that they have to be somebody that they're not. and have all this medical knowledge and all this expertise. And the reality is that a lot of the questions are really just based on your lived experiences. I think they have an understanding of where you're coming and where you're going. They've read your application, but also you haven't been a doctor yet, so they don't expect for you to have all of this knowledge. So just being yourself and not being somebody that you're not.
Yeah. I think that's a big thing you mentioned, right? You're not a doctor yet. They know you're not a doctor yet. They know you're just a pre-med, right? Just it's like you're a pre-med, a successful pre-med, having gotten an interview. And so just talk, and don't try to show them that you know all of this medical stuff. They're there to teach you all the medical stuff. You were just there to show that you're a good person and can communicate and all that good stuff. So good job. Safala, my pre-med advisor, said that I should not include EM dashes in my secondaries because it looks AI. What do you think about that? I have very strong opinions about M dashes. I love M dashes. Even before AI came out, I love M dashes. For those who don't know, M dashes are the longer dash that is used in place of commas sometimes. Don't overuse them. I use them often, appropriately. But yeah, AI has been known to use them more. I think because AI is using them appropriately, and us dumb Americans with our with our education system, we don't learn M dashes through our education system. And AI is like, hey, there's this cool thing out there called an M dash that you don't that works really well to separate sentences better than a comma. And so M dash is using it appropriately, and us dumb American educated people are like, what the heck is that thing?
I was wondering about this. Do the application services consider an M dash a character, or is it a special character?
It's a regular character.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a normal Unicode character.
Okay. But the point that I have about M dashes is this: whether or not you use them appropriately, the reader at the medical school level may not know what the hell that is.
Yep.
They may be the same kind of person that doesn't know what an M dash is. And
Correct.
So I think you can use it judiciously, but I've seen personal statements, for example, that had just littered with M dashes. And I think that, that's a little overboard.
Yeah. I think you have to use them appropriately.
Yeah.
Which is like what is appropriate, but makes it harder. Yeah. I agree. Carlos, are you a M dash fan or not?
It doesn't matter, to your point, as long as it's appropriate. It's like commas, multiple commas, and comma, right?
Yeah.
It's the same type. Use it appropriately. Make sure that it's not just all over the place. So
yep. Okay.
That's funny that y'all talk about M dashes like that, because I tend to go overboard with ellipses.
Oh, yeah. No.
So
and AI doesn't do that because that's not appropriate. So you're just wrong. It's okay. We're all allowed to be wrong. All right. Maybe that was growing up with the typewriter. There was just lots of ellipses. They didn't have M dashes on typewriters.
Well, actually, we used it a lot back in the calligraphy days of old.
Yeah. Back chiseling out on the stone. Oh, sorry. If you would like to file an HR complaint, Scott, for my age jokes. Right. E24. What are the proper terms to use when it comes to patient with blindness versus blind patient, unhoused versus homeless, etc.? I want to make sure I'm using proper language in interviews, essays, etc. I love this question, E24. Great question. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I have a very, I don't know, controversial take on this. I think some of it, some of the language to me is like, what's the point? Like, you change one word. I'm like, okay, great. Like, we changed the word, but what does that really mean? And part of it is probably just ignorance on my part to not understand fully why we changed the word and why it matters. But I do have a really strong stance on one of these. But Carlos, I'll let you answer first.
So funny enough, I had somebody just yesterday, we were talking about this, and they were talking about somebody that was overweight, and they used the word obesity, right? Had dealing with obesity, and they asked, is this appropriate or not? My take was, if it's a proper medical term, diagnosis,
Yep.
why would it be sort of
Yep.
not right to use it, right? I think in this case, you're saying the same thing just in a different way, but if the diagnosis is blindness and it's a proper diagnosed term, I guess, for the diagnosis, I would say go for it. I think the unhoused versus homeless, I think that's a little bit different because it's just the way that I think the society has changed and viewed people.
Yep.
I don't see a difference. I think you have to be cautious of where you're sending it to or where you're writing it and for what purpose. Because I think it might land a little different in different situations. But
Scott?
Yeah, I don't really I'm not very politically correct sometimes, and not out of some kind of philosophical position, just more out of ignorance, I think, than anything. And so I don't know, I know that some of these terms some people feel very strong about. I have friends that are in social work in sort of sector, and they feel very strongly about saying unhoused individuals as opposed to the homeless.
That's the one that I'm like, I don't really understand that difference. What that
I don't either, but they're like all big on it, and so I'm kind of like you, Carlos. If it comes down to a medical term, or if there is a medical sort of term that you would use to talk about that, then I think that's what you use. Outside of that, I think you just have to kind of always ask Chat GPT what to do.
All right, so I'll give you my stance. The one that I am pretty I have a really strong opinion on is the one that you guys are like, I don't know. So the difference between patient with blindness versus a blind patient, one is focusing on the human and one is focusing on the disability. And so the way that I was always taught, and now as a patient, sometimes having a kid with a disability, right? They are not a disabled person. They are a person first who happens to have a disability. And so that is, I'm pretty adamant on that sort of language of patient first. They are a patient who is blind or a patient with blindness. They're not just a blind patient, right? Again, at the end of the day, a lot of this is just semantics and trying to continue to do better with how we speak about people and to people. And I personally think that patient first is a better way to speak about people.
But I have a question for you, because you've done this, right? I haven't. You're talking about from a personal experience, right? Of why you look at it differently. But in medical school, were you taught that it is the patient first versus?
So where I actually learned that was in undergrad. I learned it in a class about, because I was an exercise physiology major. It was a class about exercise physiology for patients with disabilities, and it was my professor who was like, this is how we talk about people. So it came from the education world and has been supported through medical school, talking with patients directly as a physician, and then now personal experiences with family.
Yeah, interesting. Cool.
Does everyone share that thought? Probably not, but it's something that that I will correct on an essay if I see it. All right.
Well, how about the one from yesterday? Obesity versus the patient with weight issues. Like that.
I think obesity is the term, right? So I wouldn't call them an obese patient. I would call them a patient who is obese, right? Because obesity is a medical term that's defined by BMI over whatever, and we can have arguments about BMI and how useless it is, but that's a whole separate conversation.
We're going down a rabbit hole. Get out of that rabbit hole.
Yes. Yeah, I just wouldn't. Yeah. Hamzaza, can a 3.8 GPA for the last 80 credits, fantastic, mostly prereqs and upper division science, balance out a 3.2 cumulative? Scott, we talk about trends a lot. 80 credits at a 3.8, mostly prereqs, upper division science. Anything to be worried about there?
I would want to know more about. I mean, the to me, the other credits had to be dismal to get the 3.8 with 80 credits down to a 3.2. So I would want to know what went on early on, what was going on early on that caused that dismal academic performance. And as long as there wasn't something that caused me concern about them transitioning to medical school, and I always worry about students if the wheels fall off. And I'm not talking about one marginal semester at the beginning of their freshman year. I'm talking about the wheels fall off their freshman year or into their sophomore year, and they can't deal with the transition. What's going to happen? Now they're 4 years older. One would hope that maturity would help with that. But what's going to fall off? What's going to happen when they transition from college to the difficulties of medical school? But so I'd want to know more about the story. But I do think that the upward trend is very important, and that's very impressive. The 3.8 and 80 credits to bring whatever that was up to a 3.2. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I always lean on the fact that, because the students will come to us and say, well, is this enough? Should I keep going back? And at some point you have to figure out, like, I've done as much as I can.
Yeah.
I've got 80 credits. Is 100 credits at a 3.8 gonna be the thing? And so I talk to students. At the end of the day, it's just knowing that you've done what you can do. You put yourself out there, you apply. The medical schools that are going to care about that upward trend will see it and take that into account. There will be medical schools that don't care about that. And there's nothing as a student you can do to affect that. And so you just know, again, this is medical school application 101. Not every medical school is going to like your application. And that's okay. That's just part of the process. So.
And I would say also, unfortunately, that there's not enough transparency to know which of those medical schools are which.
100%. That's
the downside.
That's the world that we're trying to affect as much as possible.
That's right.
Yes. All right. Good question. Congrats on that upward trend. Susie, pros and cons for paid clinical experience, EMT versus CMA. Carlos, does it matter at the end of the day what they're doing, as long as they're doing it?
Yeah, it doesn't really. As long as, I mean, some people find a job and it's a job, and I would consider that a double benefit, right? You're getting paid for something that you're doing and you're gaining experience. I think sometimes people get caught up in maybe it's free, therefore it automatically falls under community service. And the reality is that even if it's free, it's looked on as clinical work, not community service. So I think that's the balance that people tend to find with paid, non-paid. But for me, in my experience, it's like, no, it's clinical experience.
Yeah. That's the big thing, right? We talk about clinical versus non-clinical, and we have a big focus because the med schools seemingly are having a bigger focus on non-clinical community service. And so just making sure that non-clinical community service, even unpaid clinical work, that's not what we're talking about when we say non-clinical community service. Awesome. Good question. Shamate, 316 undergrad GPA in 2021 with 2 jobs. Now online science, all A's, 24 credits, working full time, 15 credits left, hoping to get A's with a total of 38 credits. Shamate gave the phonetic spelling at the end. I think I got it right without even saying it at the end. I think I did. All right, Scott, I'll come back to you on this because we were just talking about upward trends. Like, at the end of the day, can we give confidence of like, yeah, that's enough, that's not enough?
Yeah, no, we can't. Now, there's in what Shumate, what you've done. There's a couple of caveats to it. One is all online sciences that causes me concern. Whether or not you're learning the same thing, whether or not it doesn't
The rigor.
matter at the end of the day. What matters is how the medical schools perceive it. That's what's going to, win the game at in the admissions committee meeting. So that concerns me a little. I'm glad they're all A's. That's good. 15 more credits that you're going to add to that. That's good. If as long as they're all A's, that's 38 credits. Is that enough? I don't know. It could be, maybe not. 316 is pretty low. Obviously, it's above a 3.0, which is important for a lot of schools in terms of review processes and stuff like that. That you're working 2 jobs then, that you're working full time now, is going to be seen, is going to be viewed and considered in the process. But so it's a lot of nuance there.
Yeah. The nuance never stops. And again, at the end of the day, you put yourself out there, you apply, and cross your fingers that the people that care about that upward trend and will potentially, in that other impactful experiences essay, at least for the AMCAS application, or the optional essay on TMDSAS, you can give a little context to your application in undergrad, all that stuff. Good luck. The E24, back with this question. Okay. For someone with autism, patient with autism. Yeah, patient with autism, not autistic patient. Again, that's my stance. Or you can just say, this is a funny joke. I was just gonna say, or you can say patient who likes trains, because that is the classic stereotype of.
Oh, really?
People with autism is they really like trains. This is funny. All right, Jeffrey, is it wrong to rely on AI for the application process? It's just a tool, right? Whoa, Jeffrey. Carlos, we've been talking as a team about AI and its uses and how students are using it, and potentially where we as a team can even help students use AI better. I don't know. Do you play with AI a lot, Carlos, just for fun or in what you do?
Sometimes in some things. I think the question is, what do you mean by rely? Like, what's the extent of that reliance on a tool that's supposed to help, right? If you're asking it to do everything for you, then at that point AI is writing your application and writing things for you, and that's not a reliance of a tool. This is actually somebody doing it for you. So just be very cautious of how much you use it. At the end of the day, your application should have your voice, and use it like you said. It's a tool. It's not meant to replace you.
Yeah. I love AI. I use it as often as I can. I also have people who help me in the business with AI, and their use of AI and how they use it versus how I use it. It's like a high school essay versus a kindergartner essay. The ability for them to prompt AI. Some of the prompts that we use for things that we're building and doing behind the scenes, those prompts are 5 pages long, versus what most people do is they'll go to ChatGPT and be like, edit my essay, right? And that sort of just boundaryless discussion is kind of useless. You're potentially doing more harm than good. And so that's where we want to potentially help students by creating really solid prompts that you can use that will help you edit your essays. And then as we build it out, right? AI is moving so fast, but as we build it out, I want to then create some videos and go, okay, like I had AI edit this essay. Now I'm going to edit, right? My human brain is going to edit what the AI edited, and I'm going to see if I can still pick it apart, just to show you all what you may be missing by using AI. And some of that is a selfish reason, right? We help students with their essays, but some of it is also to protect you so that you aren't relying on AI, which still has a lot of issues. And I think we'll always have a lot of issues because it's not perfect. And I'm a huge tech geek. I think technology is going to solve a lot of our issues in the world. And so I think at some point it'll be there. And then what do, Scott? Do you just get rid of essays? Because everyone's like, well, if everyone has access to ChatGPT, like what's the point of having essays? And so I don't know where you go from there. Like, do you just rely on interviews at that point?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, the reality is that a lot of programs do rely on the interview to make final decision, right? So, because we all know from experiences, even having work in medical school, that they're probably recycled essays, like same questions, same thing. So
that's it. Samuel asks, how old is prereqs? How old is prereqs too old and should consider retaking them if you pass them? So basically, do prereqs expire? It depends on the school, Sam. It's all about the school. The MSAR has that information. If you're applying to MD schools, go look at DO schools' individual sites. Kelly, will it be clinical experience if my shadowing pediatrician let me glue a cut for a child? I added like, Kelly, you have 10 hours shadowing the pediatrician and 5 minutes gluing. I don't know how you really break that out. So if half the time was spent gluing cuts, then sure. But yeah. Miles asks, in essays and interviews, how do you recommend balancing authenticity and portraying myself in the best way possible? For example, talking about experiences or things like previous mistakes. Carlos, it sounds like Miles is saying you can only do one thing. Talk about yourself authentically or portray yourself in the best way possible. I think those go hand in hand.
Yes, and that's why I was like, if you're portraying yourself the best way possible, then you should be authentic, right? With the interviewer, it shouldn't be like, well, I'm going to be authentic now, and then I'm going to completely switch gears and pretend I'm somebody I'm not, and be this great person.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Let's use their specific example, because I think this is their fear is that, well, if I talk about a previous mistake, I'm being authentic, but I'm not portraying myself in the best way possible, because how dare I be human and make a mistake?
Yeah. I mean, those are questions you get asked in the interview, right? Talk about a challenge, talk about a mistake. What did you learn from it? How do you view approaching something new when you failed at something? You have to be authentic in responding to those responses, because I personally think that they will see right through you.
Yeah.
When you try to elaborate some great thing that you learned from it, when it was like, oh yeah, I just learned how to do this and this, right? At some point you have to be reflective in the process. You can't just assume that this is what they want to hear.
Yep.
So being authentic is portraying yourself in the best way possible. It's not one or the other. It's being both. You'll get through that process. And part of it is also demonstrating that you have a little bit of that, what do you call that? That you've overcome adversity to get to where you're at today. Like, your life is not perfect. Nobody's life is perfect. And that's why they ask you these questions.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Greetings. I bought all your books for my son, which helped. My son has received his first acceptance, DO, on July 3rd. Fantastic. Let me see which. Oh, wait, I don't know which button it is. I think it's this one. Woo! I want to implement like forgive me. I'm not a fan of the man personally. So if you are, I'm sorry. But Dave Ramsey, if you know who Dave Ramsey is, I think most people will. He has his radio show, and he has something on the radio show that is very unique to his audience and what they're trying to accomplish. Do you all know what that is? No? I wonder if people listening or watching, do you all know? So Dave Ramsey, he'll get a caller on to celebrate something, and they'll do something that has taken on a life of its own. And I think it's like this like an inside message joke. I don't know the right word to call it. But I would love to do something for our audience, because I think it works. Nobody's answering. So what they do, right? Dave Ramsey's all about debt and reducing debt, getting rid of your debt. And so his audience members, when they become debt free, they will call the show. And I think it's like, I don't know if it's multiple per day or one per day. They'll do what they call the debt-free scream, where the audience member will come on, they'll be on the phone, and they'll be like, I'm debt-free, like, and they'll all celebrate, and it's super fun, right? It would be really cool to like have someone come on and be like, I got accepted. So
I agree. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be really fun to celebrate.
So we're gonna have a 1-800 number.
Right.
Well, we can bring them on here. They can just come on here. So yeah, William knew what it was. So yeah. Anyway, congrats to Kung Fu Panda, to your son. Fantastic. Oh, this is interesting. We kind of had a similar question pop up internally amongst the advisors. Is it okay to apply in the middle of a master's program? Do you think schools will refrain from responding until my degree is complete? So this is a little bit different. The question that came up internally was, hey, if I get into medical school, I'm going to leave my program. And so there was some question about whether or not that was ethical, or medical schools would have an issue with that. But this is a little bit different. Let's assume Scott Sidney is applying to medical school, but they're in their master's program, I'm assuming, to improve GPA, right? So they're doing the master's program. And Sydney, you can correct if we're wrong, just to give us some more context. But Sydney's in their master's program to correct their GPA or improve their GPA. And then they apply to medical school without finishing that correction. Will medical schools like that, not like that? Depends on so many other variables.
I think, well, as with a lot of other stuff we talk about, it depends on the medical school. Mm-hmm. I think some medical schools will just, look at the person for what they are at that moment. At the time they're looking at them, they've gotten halfway through this master's program. Here's where they are academically. Here's where they were as an undergrad. Do I like the mixture of what I'm seeing and everything? I'm going to assume that they're going to continue to do as well or better than they have through the completion of their master's program. Now, if the wheels fall off, that is going to mean something later. But yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on the school. But I would say most schools, I can't imagine a school's going to wait until the degree is complete before they even look at the applicant. That would seem a little odd to me, but maybe not. I mean, there could be schools out there, but I wouldn't do it that way at my school.
Yeah. Carlos, any thoughts on this?
I would say the programs are going to ask, like, why are you applying if you're not done with one thing? I say that because when we offered admission through the process of committee and stuff like that, right? All of this was taken into consideration of like, oh, this person maybe had a not so good undergraduate degree. They went to a master's program. Their MCAT was not as high as some other applicants that we're reviewing, but they're going to complete a master's program. Mm-hmm. and by the time they get here, they're going to be good, right? And we always had that conversation with folks that had been admitted of like, well, what happens if I just don't do my prerequisite coursework, or what happens if I just don't complete? And the response was always, our admissions committee made their decision based on the information that you indicated was true, that you were going to complete by the time of matriculation.
Correct.
If you fail to do that, then now sort of you're at a crossroads, and there's two options. You decide to say, well, I didn't complete it, I'm just going to decide not to attend medical school and withdraw my app, or you let us do that and for you, and we'll send you a letter that says the committee is no longer offering you an extension for admission. Good luck in your future endeavors. Because again, it's based on that. I personally think that that's part of the process of looking at an application as well, is that, and I don't want this to sound as bad as it's probably going to come out, that you are smart enough or intelligent enough to plan this out so that you know when you submit an application that that's what's next in your journey, versus like, no, I'm just going to apply, I don't care if I leave this program.
Yeah. My answer, I think, just goes to not even necessarily what medical schools will think if you're going to complete the master's, not complete the master's. To me, it's more just logistics of, if you're in the master's to improve your GPA, then you should probably finish the master's to show that you've improved your GPA and apply once you have proven that. If you're doing it in the middle and maybe you only have 12 credits, 15 credits from your first year, maybe whatever that looks like you may not have done enough to show that you can handle the coursework. And so that's where I just get into that question. Yeah. Scott, here's an easy question for you. Justin asks, how much does in-state bias impact an applicant for TMDSAS?
That would be a lot, a whole lot, a 90% lot. That's how much, 90% lot.
It feels 90%. More like 95%.
I know, right?
Yeah. So state law dictates at least the schools that use TMDSAS, 90% of the class at a minimum has to come from in-state. Easy answer. All right.
And let me just say, I don't like the word bias in that sentence. It's not bias. It's a state law. So law. This is not like, well, we're just biased against non-residents. No, it's not that.
It's just the Texas bias.
We're obeying the law, and that's that's all.
I mean, let's be honest. Texas has a ton of bias about Texas, but this specific thing is this is state law.
Yeah, and I it's based on this notion that you come to medical school here, you're more likely to stay here to practice medicine, which I don't think is borne out in a lot of ways by the data related to where I think residency is more of an issue of where you do your residency. Now, some schools, they're going to say, 75% of our student that comes to medical school here is 75% more likely to stay in Texas to do a residency. Then I think that the numbers play out in that direction. But anyway, they want people that are going to serve Texas, and so and a lot of other states are the same way. A lot of states have these laws that are based on that notion.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to find. I know there's some source out there that has data on where physicians practice versus where they went to medical school versus where they did residency. I haven't looked at that data in forever, so I don't want to speak to it. But I know that data is available. I think it's just survey data. So, yeah. Although it's probably really easy actually to just look at the NPI database. A lot of the education stuff is public. So look at the NPI database. I wonder if we could just go and pull that data and scrape it and stuff. Analyze it. Uphill Gill. I'm a registered nurse of 4 years. See, like, why can't we have like a mascot, Oswald, for medical school HQ? Is that too cartoony? Inpatient hospital, working with lots of podiatry, GI, ID, neuro, ENT, and hospitalists, but only at the bedside would I still benefit from shadowing hours. Yeah, I'll speak to this. I'm a huge fan of, yes, even as a nurse, you should be shadowing because you see what happens at the bedside and not all of the other crap. So I think you should still go get some shadowing hours. Not a ton. You can shadow once every couple months. It'd be great. I like Oswald. Is it Oswald the octopus? I'm assuming that's an octopus. So, and I love the alliteration. So that's good. Scott, back to you real quick. Carrie says, what kind of ties to Texas actually help? Again, this is state law, so it's less of a tie thing and more of...
It's going to be employment. It's going to be what they're looking for, Carrie, is domicile. Where do you live? Where have you lived for the last 12 months? And are you gainfully employed during those 12 months? Have you done the things indicative of domicile? Voter registration, driver's license, you bought a home or, and that you're living in. These are all indicators of domicile.
Yep. I put a link. TMDSAS has a page specific for residency and how to establish that and what they're looking for. It's pretty cut and dry. You either are a resident or you're not, and that's just pretty straightforward. I was going to ask a question. I was going to say something. So Carrie says the 10% that isn't in state, does it matter? I don't know if this is public data, so I won't name sources or talk specific about anything. But Scott, you can either confirm or deny or plead the fifth. What I've been told by people you are familiar with is that really the biggest indicator for out-of-state students getting interviews and acceptances is your MCAT score. It's just a really high MCAT score.
I agree. I do agree with that. If you look at the data, the GPA doesn't notably differ for not residents versus non-residents in terms of the mean or a median GPA for those two groups. The differentiator is the MCAT score always.
Yeah.
When you look at it, as a group. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll share this. This is the TMDSAS data report. So the medical application, I love how TMDSAS lays this out. So we can look at Texas residents and go down to test scores. So for Texas residents, for those who were accepted, average MCAT 511.4. If we look at non-residents, it goes up to a 515.6. So pretty big jump there. If we looked at GPA, you have those who are accepted. Let's look at Texas resident. Average 384, 379 science, and GPA. I mean, when you're up that high already, it's kind of hard to move it. So pretty similar GPAs there. Mm-hmm. So that MCAT score is a big number.
Texas is behind. They should update that to 2025 already. That was 2024.
Oh no, I just didn't select 2025. They did have it. I don't know if that's just stuck from when I was there.
And by the way, I wanted to report on the question about where a doctor practices medicine and what factors predict that very well. I asked AI what the answer was there. And they said medical school location has some influence, but residency location and personal factors such as family and lifestyle are far better predictors. So we were pretty much on target with that.
And where does that data come from?
AI.
That's all that matters. AI told me.
The universe told us.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yep. All right. Chloe L says, I thought some California schools have in-state bias. A lot of public schools, not all, but most have in-state bias. They are a public institution funded by the state government to train physicians in that state, right? With the idea that you go to medical school there, you'll stay there, you're from there. Again, it doesn't necessarily play out, but theoretically, if you're from that state, your family is still there, all that stuff, you may want to practice medicine in that state. So yeah, there is bias for a lot of schools if they are public. Some private schools have bias, not all, but not most, but there are some. Michigan is always the one that I call out of being the easy one to go, yeah, there's no in-state bias for University of Michigan medical school. Their undergrad also doesn't have huge in-state bias.
And then you have states like Mississippi, and the bias is 100%.
Yep.
Bias.
Yep.
If you're not
and specific schools like UC Davis takes almost no one from out of state. UC Riverside takes almost no one from out of state. But then you have UCLA that does, and UCSD that does, and they're smaller numbers. Or even like University of Arizona has 2 campuses. One campus has like 10% out of state. The other campus has 25% out of state. So it's school by school and very different. All right, let's keep going. Daryl Lee, does it look bad if I have submitted most of my secondaries, but my letter writers haven't uploaded their letters yet? Get them going. Carlos, you're shaking your head. Yes. I don't know if it looks bad, but their application is just not complete. It's just sitting there, right?
I think that's the thing, right? It doesn't matter, or what does it look bad? I mean, your application is incomplete. Yeah. So does it look bad? Kind of, sort of, because it's incomplete.
Yeah, it's getting more and more delayed.
Right, and you're indicating strong interest, but then the opposite effect of like you're telling us you want to come here, but your application's incomplete. So get it done. Yeah. Submitted.
Yeah, get on your letter writers. That's unfortunate that they're slacking. So when we say complete, primary application, secondary application, MCAT score, LORs, and all pending MCAT scores, right? You don't have a pending score out there. Some schools may add on one of the SJTs like Preview or Casper, but for the most part, it's those 4 things: primary, secondary, LORs that you've indicated are going to that school, and all MCAT scores. Good luck. All right. Zay, I have a 3.96 GPA in undergrad and a master's in physiology with a GPA of 3.1. During that time, my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer and a lot was going on, which led to my master's GPA to suffer. That's a bummer. I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully better. I also got a 500 on my MCAT the first time around. When I retook it this year, I got a 503. I'm a little worried about my application. Yeah. So it's interesting, Scott. When we look at applications, there's lots of data points that we look at. And the data here shows a student with a lower master's GPA and a lower MCAT score. The 3.96 GPA in undergrad is the outlier, which for me is like, maybe that just isn't a real GPA. Maybe you went to a super easy school or something, but everything points to a student who may struggle with the academics of medical school.
I completely agree with that. And Zay, I'm sorry, I regret your sister's diagnosis, and I'm sure walking through that with her was a very difficult thing to do. The question for the medical schools, in my view, is going to be: life happens, and are the wheels going to fall off academically when things happen? and this is what we see in or potentially what you're seeing in the master's GPA for you. The other question could potentially be a question of judgment. Should you have taken a leave of absence, or did you even attempt to take a leave of absence from your graduate program to deal with the life event that was going on, and then come back into it when you were able to more focus? So, even this even happens in medical schools where, something happens for a student and they have to, they have to take a stop out because they can't move on. And sometimes they come back and sometimes they never come back. So it just depends. But, those are the kinds of things that admissions committees, I think, are going to think about when viewing that application. But I agree with you, Ryan, that the low MCAT score and the physiology, kind of low. And let me tell you that in a graduate program, a 3.1 is lower than a 3.1 in undergrad.
Yeah.
Because you don't stay in graduate school and make C's. You make C's and you're pretty much gone. So what that says to me is, that's a difficult way. The med school is going to perceive it that way, I think, often. So what I would say is, you got some work to do, definitely, to kind of do some repair stuff on this. But, keep up keep working on it.
Yeah. Keep going. Rami from Instagram asks, I know the rule of thumb for secondaries is 2 weeks, but due to the volume of them, for some reason, if you submit after 2 weeks, but before 3 weeks, will that reduce your chance? Like, again, this is a rule of thumb. Stick to the deadlines for each school if they have one, which most do not, and get them in when you can get them in. So don't stress about it. All right, so we'll do one more question here. Ashley Claire, playing the piano in her guitar. A little picture there. I was planning on submitting my app 7:15. Why so late? My app at the latest, but had to revise my personal statement. I don't have a specific seed. I'm trying to write about one. It comes across as not authentic. Do I truly need a seed? Carlos, this seed stuff is all fake made up stuff that I created, right? For my book, right? The personal statement book, the Premed Playbook Guide to the Medical School Personal Statement. The seed and watering of the seed was just the metaphor that I used on how to think about conveying to someone reading your application how you got here, what's driving you down this path. And almost everyone has some reason, right? Some event that happened to them, something in their life that we as a team and in my book, we call the seed. For someone who at this point, it's 7/23, July 23rd, and they're still struggling with their personal statement, they don't have a seed. I mean, the easy answer for me is like, get on a advising call with one of our advisors and talk through it. For someone who's struggling to find their seed, what do you help them through, Carlos?
Yeah, I think it's, where did this desire journey to want to enter medicine come of his, right? It doesn't have to be something big or something like an eventful thing that happened in your life, but it has to have begun somewhere. I think that's the earliest starting point to begin in terms of writing your personal statement and then moving on from there. I think sometimes folks struggle to, I would say, piece their life together because it's so far removed from when that actually started that you're like, I don't remember, because I've had these conversations with some folks that they'll tell me back, like, I just don't remember. I'm like, well, you have to remember. Like, part of this is a lot of reflection, right, in the process of all of this. And you're not just going to do it while writing the personal statement. You're going to do it through the interviews, secondaries, and all that stuff. But I think that's the easiest. Think of a point of where all of this began to really begin writing the story that goes into your personal statement. And again, it doesn't have to be something big. It could be something simple. I will say that sometimes I find it cliche when folks say, well, it started when I took a physiology class, and I'm like, okay, it could be a little cliche, but if that's where it started, that's where it started. I'd rather you be truthful and authentic than create some elaborate story that really isn't the reason why you're going into medicine. So yeah, reflection.
Reflect. Jump on a call with our team. Have them pick your story apart and figure out where that is. I like being called the seed whisperer. I help students figure out. I dig and dig and dig. I'm like, there it is.
That's funny.
So, all right, friends, medicalschoolhq.net. If you need help with your essays, secondaries, primaries, like some people, interview prep. Interviews are coming fast and furious now. Acceptances are coming. Do I meet with people one-on-one? I personally do not. I've surrounded myself with people like Carlos and Scott and others on our team who are much smarter than me. And so they do all the one-on-one stuff. But come hang out with us and they'll take care of you. medicalschoolhq.net, premedevents.com. We have our workshop tomorrow. We have residency workshop, Carlos, that you're doing next week. We have an MCAT workshop next week, and MCAT office hours tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, same time, or same spot here. All right, everyone. Carlos, Scott, thanks for being here.
Peace.
Goodbye, everyone.